Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Joana Marques. I'm a researcher in astronomy, education, and communication at the Institute of Astrophysics and Space Sciences in the University of Coimbra in Portugal. And I will share with you some results and reflections of my work concerning observations of the sky as family and community practices, give you some insights from naturalistic research. Let me just see here. Yeah, okay. So I will first talk a little bit about research in observations of the sky. Why study it? What do we know so far? Then I will present a little bit the methodological approach that I follow, and I will give you them some results that we have found in our data corpus, especially concerning family interactions. I will focus on the family interactions, and then I will talk a little bit at the end about what we can learn from it and some possibilities for the formal context, some bridges that can be established. So first of all, why study observations of the sky? This is mainly my research interest. And I know that for this group of people that are here at the Shaw workshop, there's no need to explain why they are important. Everybody here knows that observations of the sky are important. But at the same time, I feel that sometimes we forget about them. We forget about their importance and centrality, or we take them for granted, maybe. And so I will list anyway some of the arguments that I think that make these activities so important in the astronomy education field. First of all, millions of people participate every year around the world in these activities. I think it's probably one of the most presented activities in astronomy education and communication. It has a huge potential for engagement for different reasons. We can talk about it later. For many people, and I think this is really important, for many people, this an observation of the sky, it's the first contact with astronomy and also with the astronomy community and with the astronomy practices. This is also a way institutions reach a diverse public. Many times it is done in nature, so it has advantage. It has the potential for instance, awareness of contemporary problems such as light pollution. And other times it is done in research institutions and in historical sites. So it also is an activity that in a way opens the door to the research institutions and to the historical astronomical sites, like, for instance, observatories and others. It is a very versatile activity where different public participate, different guides, different educators, astronomers, amateur astronomers, science communicators, etc., conduct these activities, and it also is done in a variety of institutions and with a variety of equipments. So it is very versatile, as I was saying, and the astronomy community takes advantage of this versatility of these activities. And so I think, yeah, they are really important and they are central to the astronomy education and communication. It's looking at the sky, right? It's the beginning, it's where everything starts. So I was really, really surprised, not in a good way, when I start researching and when I start looking at the literature that exists about observations of the sky, and there's almost nothing there. It's a very, very under-researched area. There are few studies that analyze these activities, and of course, there is in a great literature, in conferences, in the communication journals, There is some works describing activities, talking about the different publics or how to conduct these activities, but systematic studies done with scientific methodologies are not very common. And so, at the end, at this moment, the work of guides, educators, public, but also the process, the content, the methodologies are not well done, known in a systematic way. So that's why I start researching these activities and I choose methodological approaches that allow me to look to what's really happening in these activities. So I think the first thing is to look what's really happened, how people do things in practice. And so I do naturalistical research, mainly focus on the approaches of ethnomethodology and conversation analysis. The idea is exactly to capture the real events unfolding, people going about what they are doing, interacting with each other. And so these approaches allow me to study the social interactions through the rigorous analysis of the natural talk. And when I say natural talk here, I am referring to not just the words that come out of our mouths, but the way they come out. So the silences, the repetitions, the overlapping, but also it's part of what we call this natural talk, the gestures, the gazes, among others. So it's the full interaction between people that I am trying to analyze here. And so with this, we can do a systematic description and understanding of the interactions and the educational practices in situ as they happen moment by moment. And to do so, we need real events, right? It's not an interview about what people did or what they are planning to do or the opinion about these activities. It's exactly looking at real events to see how they happen, how people do things. And so the method starts with a collection of data of real events, video and audio, done with minimum disturbance. So the idea is not to interfere with the participants. I use mostly infrared cameras because the lower the light in these environments, the better, right? So I need to use infrared cameras to capture what's happening in the dark. And the analysis is done by multiple visualizations and in-depth analysis about these interactions, about what is happening between people. And then in results, practices, method starts to emerge. And to do so, it's also very useful to do the transcriptions, the full transcriptions about this natural talk. So also referring and doing annotations of these repetitions, of the gestures, of the silence, etc. And with this, as a result, we can have the methods described. So how people do things, how people show the sky to others, how people help others to use the telescope, what they talk about, how, in a systematic way. I show you here some of the results so far that have emerged from this deep analysis of these practices at the telescope in the systematic way. So it's interesting to see that, for instance, these activities, it's central to these activities that they are equipmentally mediated. In equipmentally mediated, I mean that it's central for these activities, the mediation of the telescope or the mediation, for instance, of the laser pointer. So we have equipments that are central to our learning, how communication happen in these activities. And learning about this equipment, learning how to use this equipment is part of the learning experience. More than that, we also were able to describe in detailed way, the methodology that it's used to show the celestial objects to people. This is interesting, and it's what we described as the seeing by proxy method, because as we all know, when we are helping someone to see Jupiter, Saturn, a nebula through the telescope, we are not both observing at the same time, right? So these techniques of seeing by proxy is a techniques that the guides use to guide the person while not looking at the same thing, being able to discover, to find out what the person is seeing and guide them in that individual thing that is happening. Another interesting result looking at these activities is that they are also emotionally charged, in the sense that we all know we do observations of the sky with the public, and we all know that emotions are central, right? But with this methodology, we were able to confirm that the emotions are central, and more than that, what are these emotions doing in these interactions? What is their role? Where do they appear? For what? And in studying these emotional interactions, we were also able to find out that these are shared activities. So we may have this idea that observations of the sky is a very individual thing, like the person is looking through the telescope, trying to observe a celestial object. But that individual part is just a little bit. Most of the rest that is happening and is very central to the experience is shared with others. So this is also an important result. And all of these results, the idea that these activities are equipmentally mediated, that we use seeing by proxy, that they are shared and they emotionally charged. It's really important to try to understand how teaching, learning, communication happen in these activities. And looking closer at how they are, to characterize them, we see that they are very, very informal activities. So, of course, there is a script behind it, because the guides, the trainers, they have an idea of what they are going to show, the order they are going to show, they choose the equipments, but then the way it flows, it's very, very informal. And what we found out also looking at these activities is that most of the interactions around the telescope occur among family and friends. Of course, people that don't know each other also communicate, also exchange some ideas about what they are seeing. But we notice, looking at these interactions, that it's very central, this way that they are organized by these small clusters, what we call these family learning clusters. And the studying, understanding these little groups, it's very important to understand how learning and communication happens in these activities. We also found out, that's why I say here family and friends, that it's not just family, it's these small communities, it's these small groups of people, groups of friends, not necessarily families that come to these activities, but definitely is in these small groups that the activity evolves and develops. And I'll give you here some examples of what happened in these small groups. And in many cases, we are not just learning about content of astronomy, but we are learning how to do, how to observe, and what to see. This is the first part and the most central in these activities. And here you can see this family that has a new telescope and comes to this gathering of telescopes to learn how to use it, to help, to ask for help from others. And at this point, they are observing with a more experienced amateur astronomer trying to catch the moon to focus it. You can see here that all the family invests in helping the small one to observe the moon. And different things happen. You see in the first picture, here at the corner, the father is making a gesture with his hands and telling the kid that is imitating the parent how to observe just with one eye. So you just need to take one eye open. You can close or protect the other one, so you can use just one. And then in the second one, the mother also give him some other information, not how to look, but what to see. The moon, it's small, is in a quarter. It's almost new moon. I think it's small. I don't remember well. But the mother is telling the kid, when you look, you will not see the moon round. You will see just this little bit as we are seeing with our eyes directly. So the kid could know what to look for. And then when he observes, we see here that the big sister or cousin, I don't know, is helping to protect one of the eyes. And then everybody is around seeing if he's observing or not. So we see here that people struggle, but they also help each other, and it's in these small groups. Of course, the guides have a central role here, but it's in these small groups that people help each other in different ways. And we see also that all the family participates, all the members have a little insight, a different perspective, a different way of helping a little bit. And to translate, to talk in a manner, in a way that is adequate to that person that they are helping. That's what we call recipient design. So to different people, we talk with in different ways. Another example of also learning how to do it, how to observe and what to see, it's this one here. There's another big family that is observing. They're helping each other. And the problem here is with the mother that we don't see here very well on the side. She's always here on the side. But as the other members are observing, and here we see the father helping the little girl observing, but at the same time is looking at the mother, trying to help her because she says, I cannot see Saturn. I just see like an egg, like an oval. And this is very common. And then in the second one, after helping the kid, the father is telling him, now you see like the ring is in this angle, and he continues helping the others, also give insights, continues helping, like you see the planet in the middle and the ring is around, but she cannot understand it. And so you see, for instance, after the kid observes and gives some information to the mother, like he observes and carefully thinks about something that he can tell about what he sees to help the mother. The father will observe again and try to help the mother. And so they are all again trying to do the same thing with different techniques. Different elements of the family use different techniques to try to help the mother to see what she's not being able to see, you know. And it's interesting because in these family groups, you have like two things. You have people with different levels of expertise, different experience are shared, and also they learn together, and they learn in a very intimate way because they know each other so well. So you see things like, for instance, you know, you're seeing Saturn, one of the planets of the solar system, as the one with the big rings, as you learn in school this year, for instance. So we know more or less the level of knowledge of the family members. We know each other well, and we can make references to help the learning and the understanding. This is another one. Of course, here you will also see, as always, the learning, how to do, how to observe, and also what to see. But more than that, here is very interesting for two reasons. Here we really see there is the sharing of the experience of observing. That is something that happens in these small groups, sharing the enthusiasm, sharing the new skills, like this first lady, she's observing, she's amazed, she just cannot stop saying that how beautiful it is, how spectacular it is. And then the other friends, this is a group of friends, it's not a family, the other friends also come to observe. And the first one that just now learn how to focus helps immediately the second one. Like you have a knob here and you can focus, you can adjust to see better. Then she waits for her to observe. She describes a little what she will see. And when she sees it, she comes back and shares the joy of observing. So you also have here there's support, there's encouragement, there's the sharing of these new skills, and there's also other interesting things. Yeah, my time is running out, and I just want with these examples, I hope that it's clear that these units of not just families, but also friends, are learning clusters. And so it's important that when we think about learning and communication in these interactions, that we don't think about individual people, because these groups of people come together and they observe together. They have unique characteristics and complex dynamics that are unique for each one of them. There is a huge diversity of clusters. There's a group of retired ladies. There's two families that are friends with kids different ages. There's a mother with three teenagers. There's different clusters. But they have similar characteristics in the way that they share the knowledge, they know each other very well, they do multiple observations inside the cluster. So we also may have this idea of this really standard line, like one person observed and the other person observed and the other person observes. It's not like that. These groups can, and inside them they observe multiple times. Let me see again. I didn't see well. Oh, did you see the moon? No, I didn't. They help each other. They see multiple times. So we should think about observations in these blocks of learning, these diverse blocks of learning. So yeah, there's multiple observations inside the cluster. There's knowledge transferred and co-learning. There's recipient design, that idea that different members of the family talk to the level of the member that is observing. There's help, encouragement, connection. There's sharing of emotions, sharing in general of the experience of observing together. Like these groups come together to have an experience and they share it among each other and they learn together. So just to finish, these methodologies, as I have shown so far, allow us to understand the dynamics and the learning and communication that happens in these activities in situ, moment by moment, and so we can understand these dynamics as they happened. Learning around the telescope is equivalently mediated, is emotionally charged and shared. And this is really important to understand what's happening. Now, this is central. There's emotions being shared, and it's around the telescope that things happen. And learning at the telescope happens many times in family, friends, clusters, and this should be a unit of analysis, in my view. It's also interesting to see this because it's important to know that this family learning research is a growing field of inquiry. Like the 3 last decades, it's been growing in importance. We know that this informal experience have immense potential to raise interest and enthusiasm for STEAM careers, and we know that many times it's the families that decide to come to these activities and to learn together. And research also shows that in these interactions, children, but we see not only children, learn much more than content. They learn also ethics, social development skills, and so this is truly a family or a group and a way of reinforcing the connections that exists, the bonds that exists between these people while learning astronomy in this very special way. So these clusters are important in different dimensions. And just to make a little connection here, because we are talking about the informal education activity that happens in many places, but it also happens in schools. And I think we can learn also that the family, friends learning has specific characteristics that may be interesting also for the formal settings. Schools and school activities could benefit of this kind of activities where the environment is created to foster learning and family and friend groups. So when we try to organize these activities in schools and the community comes and the families come, we will know that the way our students learn, it's completely different, and it's probably done in these clusters. Also, if we do it just with in the school setting, it's also interesting to see and try to foster that these friends groups, these small groups, are created as they usual are, and look at it as a way of engaging learning in a different way. So I will stop here. Here you have the references that I use in these presentations. So I think there's still many to learn about family learning in astronomy activities. And I think that really looking at the data, really looking at the activities unfolding, we see that when they are open to the community is in these small clusters that people interact and learn. So it's really important that we look at these units when we study observations of the sky. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm open to questions now.